right, guys, welcome to L&D Unboxed, and we are back. We are back to talk about with a very interesting guest. But let me tell you what we are talking about today. So we are back with something very interesting happening in the L&D space. That's what we talk about, right? We are talking about project-based learning with technology, with the help of technology, right? Project-based learning is let me give you a scene. Picture this, a student or a corporate employee is learning, not just learning theoretically, which is happening in e-learning also, right? They are practicing something, they are solving some real situations. That's what PBL is all about. And technology is always, like I say, technology is the complementary. Technology is always adding the value to everything in these words. And technology is not future, future is here, like we say. So yeah, um, and let me not waste more time in my intro and welcome our wonderful rock star guest, Laura Williams. And she has been amazing in what she's been doing. She has been doing a lot in this education sector. She's an evangelist of PBL. She talks about it, and she do a lot of innovation and lot of creative things around that. Laura has seen how the technology has evolved and how this whole PBL system and framework has evolved, and she is the practitioner of it. So, who is better than Laura herself to actually talk about it? So, welcome, Laura, and over to you. I took a lot of talk time, I know.
Totally fine, Pradeep. Thank you for having me. I love talking about project-based learning. So anytime I can get a platform for it, I'm all about it. And it's kind of a beautiful thing when you merge, technology and e-learning with projects, because I think that it's highly engaging. Students find ownership. And like you said, the tool doesn't become the thing. It's really more of like the tool set that gets them to their like end goal or deliverable within a project. So that's kind of exciting, really, if you think about it, like all the stuff that's happening in ed tech, like what we can infuse and incorporate into project-based learning. And I think like my area, or like what I can contribute to the conversation is I've really spent a lot of time thinking about, well, how do we make projects more authentic, more culturally relevant, more productive in our communities. And so I've sort of put my hat on the term authentic learning, which is essentially like PBL, project-based learning on steroids, is how I kind of talk about it. And I would say the reason for this sort of shift of like, how do we get more authentic projects, meaning like, kids are working on a real, it's a real opportunity, real tasks. They're generating a real deliverable for a real partner, to essentially move the bar on just sort of those simulated projects, which I think are really important, especially in e-learning. Like a lot of times we might be constrained depending on the scenario. So that's not to say like a case study or a simulation or like a sample project or a practice project doesn't have its place. It certainly does. But how can we use the tools to like connect and engage learners, with something a little more, I guess, real, in the sense of it really is going to someone and they're going to get real feedback and they're developing those real skills to like generate that deliverable in the end. So I think that's like a lot of what I do. In Iowa, I work for AEA Learning Online, and I manage a digital project board, homegrown. It is a homegrown platform. So yeah, we're definitely like in version like 3.0, like definitely working out some bugs, but essentially it's a place for area businesses, community partners to go and post projects that have value to their organization. And then they invite, and currently it's open for K-12 students. There is we are looking at like, well, could we support higher ed? Because a lot of these projects could be really like, college level. So there's been some exploration there, but it's really cool to see when a partner and a group of students can connect virtually across great distance to work on something that's going to add value to that partnership. So that's a lot of the work that I've been doing, but yeah, it's really exciting.
how can we measure the success of these technology tools in terms of outcomes? Let's say students' progress in terms of any skills or anybody's skills or any performance. Uh, because see, it's all about ROIs, right? We
Mhm.
introduce something, a concept and a tool. We need to see the ROI. So how, in your experience, how we can measure that at the last mile, which is performance of students, skills of the persons who are undergoing those projects.
Yeah. That one's always it can be challenging because there's like no perfect way to measure, in my opinion, those those skills because they're so dynamic. And so what I often coach educators on are a couple of things. So one is when we're talking about like 21st century skills like collaboration, I think it's really important to kind of model like what does good collaboration look like, but also like in that whole agile mindset, we work in iterative sprints. And so building in a chance for retrospection on behavior and dynamics is going to be the thing that helps grow. So I think when you start to hear students have conversations about like being aware, it's almost like working on metacognition, like being aware of the way you think and the way you work with people, that starts to enhance as you sort of iterate and talk about it and build in space. And so I think self-assessment is a great way to see if students are even aware of like did they notice that pitfall, like did they understand that that was an issue and that needed to be we need to troubleshoot that so we can work better together. I think those are pieces of evidence that students are growing in those skills. So that's one thing. Another is there are rubrics out there that measure these things that you're trying to look for and assess. And so, going to places like ISTE and things like that to see what the student, standard benchmarks are around this work, that can be really helpful. A colleague of mine, he has been making these amazing guides around agile strategies. And so he includes really great rubrics and like a single point. So like a scaled rubric, but also like a single point one so that teachers can better diagnose or assess like, oh, what needs improvement, or what are we eliciting evidence that we are getting good at working on complex communication and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, those are the strategies. Like whatever it is when it comes to success measures, you have to decide, well, what is the evidence? Like, how would we even know? And then
Right.
build your assessment around what the evidence is. So maybe it's a portfolio. Maybe it's just the portfolio of working in a team and like showing those check-ins, showing those review sessions, showing those retrospectives, like to see the growth along the way. Um, I would say that's probably one of the better ways. It's not necessarily an easy way to measure, because you do have to have those. It's again going back to authenticity. If you are um, measuring the success of your employees, a lot of times you're going to say, well, are they delivering the output, whatever it is? Like, yes, check. Okay. Are they contributing to culture? Are they like, what are the things that your company measures as success? And then you kind of search for the evidence, and a lot of organizations have performance reviews, so
Yeah.
they look like, depending on what criteria their performance review, like you have to say what matters and then go through that performance review and have that conversation. And so yeah, that takes time, but the benefit is that people understand what they're doing right, and people then have a chance to see, oh, I can improve on this, or I self-reflect and I can move the bar in this. So just building in those opportunities, I think, is important too.
And this one is the last for this podcast, Laura. Can you share some real examples of projects or PBL activities you have done in around the students or the corporate people or anybody, because everybody understood that, okay, what is PBL is and what it is all about. But now, if some real examples you can bring on the table, then relatability will increase among our viewers and listeners. So yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of different hats that I wear, but um so like for example, on the work side of things, like on my team, um, you know, so for example, if we're building a course, that's a project, right? And so I think the success there using some of these tools is like we have a better culture, we deliver the value of the course, everybody's on the same page, and then we can hopefully launch that course around the time that we gave ourselves a timeline, right? Like, okay, we're going to get this done by December. And so that's from sort of the work front in supporting teachers. So right now, my current project is I really want to make a self-paced learning around this book, actually, to engage learners around like how do you implement authentic learning. So that's like a hat number one project so like developing a course, like that's a project. And really, if anything can be viewed as a project if you really think about it, like if there's some sort of deliverable at the end. When I work with students, there are so many amazing, authentic projects that I've helped on over the years. When I was a teacher in the classroom, some of the coolest ones were when we started really engaging with community partners. And so the first that comes to mind is the Internet of Things project. And we worked with a local telecommunications company in very rural, it's hard for me to say that word, in very non-urban Iowa. And so our challenge was this for the students and me, the teacher, because I had to learn about these things too. So like, remember that as a teacher, you're a partner with the students, like in the trenches. We had to figure out, well, how could we save this business some money and lay out a fiber optic network for a rural community? So the kids used the same tools that the telecommunications company used. Really, it was mostly on Google Earth, which I thought that's so cool that this company uses Google Earth to map out, the network.
Yeah.
Because that's accessible for the students. So they used that. We first used we printed out a giant map to kind of like figure out like where could we lay this network. Um, the students had to figure out how to do this. They had to ask lots of questions. They had to sort of figure out who's doing what. So we used Scrum boards to do that. And at the end of the day, they created what they believed to be the most cost-effective layout design for this fiber optic network that they then turned into the business partner. So that was really cool. Just they learned about how the internet works. They learned, there was math components, there was financial components, making a budget, understanding the technical side of, telecommunications, and maybe be inspired to go work for that employer, later on. So that was a good one. Some ones that I think are really cool that I've seen are students working with area university to create heat maps, like using drones um, to get like heat maps from an aerial view, working with partners to see like if their building is efficient at like not losing heat. So like looking at heat loss and transfer of heat. So incorporating that into a science credit, understanding physics using drones and thermal imaging cameras, like that is really cool. We've had students that really got into drones and started their own business in high school, doing like drone videos for companies, or even communities. Um, Another project, and this is a great one for any community. So anyone listening, if you're like, this would be awesome for the community and for kids, it's called the Why Our Town Project. And this is essentially you invite students to create online content, video, social media, make content about their town. So we've had a lot of students make videos some using drones. Drones are very popular with kids. They're fun, right? I
Yeah.
cannot drive a drone, but they certainly can. Um, but yeah, they, interview business and industry partners. They talk about the different employment opportunities. They talk about what's fun about their town, like what could we go explore. So really partnering with like economic development and tourism, like why would we come visit this town, um,
Yeah.
and create a story for their community. And I think that one's really a good kickoff project because then you get to meet some of those partners and maybe that might lead to a new project. Like I know one group of students did that, and then another project that came out of it was a parks promotion video, so promoting the area parks and like what to do there and what they have to offer, the trails, the equipment, and things like that. So yeah, I think when kids realize that they're actually contributing to something real, they are 10 times, 100 times more motivated to get it done because it's real. There's real risk, but there's real reward. And there's a partner depending on them. It's not just for a grade in the grade book. It's like they're actually doing something to contribute to their community. So projects like that, I just love. I think they're really awesome, and I don't think kids will ever forget them. So those are a couple. I could go
You know what, you're blowing up my mind. I'll tell you why. Because I'm gonna go back to those Gen Z kids and I'll tell them
Yeah.
you're the rock stars because you're doing so amazing things. Your generation is doing so amazing thing.
Oh.
Uh, because this is not just a school project, right? This is like an entrepreneurship. This is like
Hmm.
getting into the real the word I started this podcast is the real world problems, real challenges.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You're actually solving a fiber cable networking
Yeah.
in a way. And you made a point that okay, when kids gets involved in real things, they are 10 times amazing.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very personal example about it. So, I took my nephews and my father for a vacation, and this guy is 9 year old, and I asked him that, okay, hey, you know what? Can you hold grandpa's hand and just walk with him? The confidence of this 9 year old was so amazing that he is taking care of this 17
Nice.
year old.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, this is magic. This is amazing. And you rightly said he can never forget that. He'll just keep that in his mind that okay, you know what? I was helping grandpa. I was
Yeah.
helping him walking, and I we went to places and I helped him walking upstairs and everything.
That's so
So
sweet.
yeah, that's so relatable, and this is so amazing. You're doing a great job. I'll say, and you have given me some ideas to just summarize it. Uh, I am taking a lot of things away from this conversation.
Good. Yay.
Like I said, okay, you are a rock star and you have that energy. Uh, and I will say that okay, I'm not disappointed again. You are a rock star. So this is amazing. So, any closing remarks from you, Laura, on this topic, on this podcast, and overall experience, and what you want to tell our listeners, viewers, to end this?
Just honestly, pretty thank you for having me. This is awesome. You make me feel like a rock star. So thank you for making me feel good today, and sharing my passion. I think when we can move the bar on, engaging kids in projects and showing them that it's real work that really matters, then they feel really important. And I can tell you what, they know the difference. I was a science teacher before I got into the role I'm in now. And kids, I would have them make designs projects for science class. And oftentimes, guess where those projects went? Like design a model of the solar, like let's just use the common like solar system. Design a model of the solar system. They spent, a couple weeks building this thing. They got their grade. Guess where it went?
Tell me.
The garbage. They threw it away. And
Yeah,
one, that's not environmentally like sound, right? Like let's generate all this garbage
right.
for, and I know it's for learning, but I just felt like, oh my God, like that was my aha moment as a young teacher. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a waste. And they didn't even really care enough about it to keep it. Why are we doing it? And how do we engage them in projects that matter? Because they know the difference, you know?
You
So
know
I
that.
guess those are my following, like my final remarks on that is that kids feel important when you give them important work to do.
Oh, definitely, yes. Because we used to say that, okay, will we use this cos theta and sin theta in our life? Don't
Yeah.
know. Because we as a kid, you knew that, okay, this will not be used. But I say that, okay, yeah, it was part of that gymming of brain we do. But you rightly said those projects goes into garbage. But these projects really bring out those entrepreneurs, those policymakers, those different
Yes.
level people. And because they are the people who will be handling this world going forward, and this is the way we can add value to the society. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much, Laura, and thank you very much. It was an early morning for you, so I appreciate that.
For
So
sure.
you have a great day ahead and a good relaxed weekend.
Thank you, you too, and thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you very much.